The movie begins with a woman named Emily Riley sitting in a car, reading a manual before preparing to go inside. Emily works for the NSA, specializing in military psychology. She was promoted to a senior position in just 6 months, and because of this achievement, she has been nominated to take part in a new research study. The lead researcher, Dr. Phillips, welcomes her and explains that they normally do not hire people older than 25 because they are too hard to break in. But Emily is an exception. Emily tells him that much of her academic work is based on his own studies. Phillips acknowledges her talent and says Emily has a rare ability to analyze advanced physiognomy and micro-expressions, which makes her very good at detecting lies. To test her, Phillips asks Emily whether he is really Dr. Phillips. He explains that her evaluation will be simple. She must observe pre-recorded material, and her reactions will help determine her suitability. Phillips adds that her own observations will also carry great weight. Then he reminds her that she already signed the contract, which means she is now officially part of the experiment and will be working directly with him. Emily begins observing the candidates. 4 participants have signed up, 3 men and 1 woman. Phillips shows her their footage on a monitor and explains that the entire experiment will take place inside a stark, white room. The first subject, Carrie Isolano, enters. Through microphones and sensors placed around the building, Phillips and Emily hear details about her. No criminal record. Married. Carrie receives a questionnaire about her background, likes, and personality traits. When her pen breaks, she asks for another. Soon, another participant, Tony Mozala, enters. He notices the chairs are bolted to the ground so they cannot be moved. Curious, he asks Carrie about the questionnaire, and she admits it is confusing. Next, Crawford Haynes joins the room. He quickly begins filling out his form, surprising Tony and Carrie with how fast and confident he is. Tony comments that Haynes looks like a professional at this sort of thing. Finally, Paul Brody enters wearing a hoodie. Phillips asks him to remove it. Haynes is the first to finish the questionnaire. Then he helps Carrie complete hers. Watching from the monitors, Phillips asks Emily for her assessment. She observes that Haynes seems to have participated in experiments before and behaves as if he is superior to the others. Phillips tells her the study will become far more complicated than it looks now. Tony calls his girlfriend to say he will be late and leaves a check for his mother. Meanwhile, Carrie asks Haynes if he has done studies like this before and how much they pay. Haynes admits he has, and the payment depends on how long the experiment lasts. Tony nervously jokes that he hopes they are not given drugs. Dr. Phillips enters the White Room and introduces himself as the day's supervisor. He explains that the participants will be asked questions that may not make sense and that the purpose of the study is to explore the nature and limits of the human psyche. The test is divided into 4 escalating phases, beginning with Phase 1. He shocks them by announcing that the final payment will be $250. He asks them to write down their contact numbers, but Paul says he doesn't have one, so Phillips tells him to leave it blank. Then Phillips instructs them to place all their belongings into envelopes. Everyone complies except Paul, who has nothing in his pockets. Phillips warns them not to tell anyone about the experiment. Haynes grows suspicious, saying this requirement is unusual compared to his past experiences. Phillips explains that they must stay for 8 hours and promises they will not be given drugs. But then, without warning, Phillips pulls out a gun and shoots Carrie dead. The others are horrified. Tony initially believes it is a prank for YouTube, but Haynes forces him to look at Carrie's body, proving it is real. Tony panics, begging for help, while the group searches frantically for a way out, but the room is sealed. From the monitor, Emily is shaken. She asks Phillips how he can get away with such actions. Calmly, he explains that the participants' families file missing persons reports, but he is never caught. He tells Emily not to panic, to stay in control. Phillips adds that although the program is written as an MK project under government cover, the MK program has always been outside official government control. Emily presses him with questions, and Phillips finally reveals that NSA Intelligence Director Michael Zimmer and her own director Eric Roganade are involved. He reassures her that everything will make sense to her soon. Inside the room, Paul insists they cannot just kill people like this, saying surely someone will discover what is happening. Tony asks how such an experiment can be secret, but Haynes replies that it is not a secret. It has even appeared in newspapers, though nobody truly understands it. A loud horn sounds, and a slot in the wall opens. A handgun slides inside. Paul picks it up, and the loudspeaker announces the start of Phase 2. Paul, panicked, points the gun at the others, but Haynes convinces him to check how many bullets are loaded. There is only one. Haynes guesses the purpose might be part of the next test. A timer begins counting down 2 hours. Another questionnaire appears with strange questions such as, what number do Americans most often choose between 1 and 33? The men believe they must give the correct answers to survive. Meanwhile, Phillips tells Emily she should ask what the experiment is truly trying to achieve, but she knows she cannot. She instead asks how he can disobey the orders of 3 presidents who officially shut down MKULTRA. Phillips replies that after 9/11 he had no choice but to continue. When Emily refers to the White Room as a killing room, Phillips quotes his old superior, "Never forget, your enemies are just like you." Inside, the men hear strange voices beneath the floor, speaking in a foreign language. Paul discovers words scratched into the wall, "Pray for us." They realize others have gone through the same ordeal. Later, Phillips tells Emily the purpose is to eliminate the most suitable candidate. Emily, overwhelmed, breaks down in tears at what she is witnessing. The 3 men decide on a strategy. They will all choose the same number so that none of them can be singled out. They settle on 7. Tony will answer first, Paul second, and Haynes last. Tony and Haynes say 7, but Paul betrays them, answering 17. The loudspeaker announces the next casualty has been chosen. Gas fills the room, knocking them out. Emily is taken to a medical room where the unconscious participants lie. She is horrified when Phillips casually shoots Tony dead. When Paul and Haynes wake, they realize blood has been taken from them. Haynes, furious over Paul's betrayal, beats him, but stops short of killing him. Another question arrives. Where does the United States rank on the international list of average IQ? The rule is that whoever guesses farthest from the correct answer will die. Phillips explains that in such situations, survival instincts always take over. He drops a key card before leaving. Emily secretly takes it. In the room, Haynes hides part of the clue from Paul. Recordings of Muslim prayers play over the speakers, but the men cannot understand why. Tension rises. Paul refuses one of Haynes's offers and distrust deepens between them. Meanwhile, Phillips informs Emily that he has already chosen the final candidate. Crawford manages to smash the lights repeatedly until they break, scattering glass across the room. In the chaos, Paul grabs the gun again. Crawford tries to reach the window but can't, so Paul helps lift him up. Just as Crawford is about to climb through, the door bursts open and 2 scientists rush in. With one final push, Paul forces Crawford into the vent before the scientists overpower him and knock him out. Crawford crawls through the ducts and eventually reaches a grill that opens to the roof. But the scientists release sleeping gas into the vents and Crawford is dragged back to the room. In her mind, Emily imagines herself rushing inside, waking up the candidates, and helping them escape, but then she snaps back to reality. She's only standing at the window, staring at the unconscious men. Phillips notices the missing key card, retrieves it from Emily and tells her she isn't ready yet. Emily insists she has figured out the experiment's purpose, to identify apoptosis, the natural process in which a cell sacrifices itself for the greater good of the body. Here, the program is testing whether a human mind can reach that same state. Paul wakes and checks on Crawford. With 30 minutes left, they begin discussing possible answers. Crawford secretly reads the hint that numbers between 1 and 10 cannot be correct. He lies to Paul, telling him the right answer is 5, while he himself chooses 4. Crawford then makes a plan to escape and hands Paul the gun, urging him to shoot Phillips if necessary. He convinces Paul that following this plan will help end the experiment. In the end, Paul is declared the one who has achieved apoptosis. Scientists enter, kill Crawford, and take Paul away. Phillips explains to Emily that only a handful of people have ever passed this test. Horrified, Emily realizes the program is not just psychological research, it is actually training people to become self-destructing operatives, in other words, manufactured terrorists. Phillips congratulates Paul, calling him a true patriot, but Paul pushes Phillips aside and runs, desperate to escape. He begs Emily for help, but instead she locks him in. Furious, Paul curses her and continues searching for a way out. Phillips praises Emily for her decision and welcomes her fully into the program. Security blocks Paul's path, and Emily learns to her shock that what she has witnessed was only phase 1. Paul stumbles into another room filled with men who have also survived. A cold voice announces over the speakers, "Now it is time for phase 2. But now it is also time for the next great storyline. Just click my recaps on the right to continue your binge, and don't forget to subscribe for future uploads. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.